Can we turn that thing off?
Fans, we are on thehannibaltv.com with a truly special edition tonight of the Great North Wrestling Podcast. One I've been looking forward to as a long-time fan of this man's body of work, along with his huge, notable run in the original ECW. And I am talking about none other than a hardcore legend in his own right, an ECW original, Mr. Bill Fonzie Alfonso. How are you tonight, sir?
Hey, Jack Daddy, Hannibal TV. That was such a cool introduction. I'm very flattered when people put me in that kind of category. I know I've been around for a long time, but do I deserve to be called a legend? I don't know. That's you guys.
Oh, absolutely. And we're, we've got so much to talk about tonight. We're going to go through many notable aspects of your career, and I would anticipate, perhaps because you have so many great stories to tell, some of which we've talked about offline, that the fans will probably be clamoring for yet another interview with yourself. But I wanted to ask you right off the hop, what your thoughts are on the not too distant passing of, talk about a hardcore icon and legend, that would be Terry Funk, and his impact on the original ECW. As I understand, you refereed your first match between Funk and the original Sheik.
Wow, Terry Funk and I go back a long time. Even before I met him, I was a big fan. How I got into pro wrestling. My dad came home. I'll continue to talk about Funk, believe me. How I became interested in wrestling. My dad came home. He had lunch with the sports editor for the Tampa newspaper. He came home with two comp tickets. He said, "Hey, Billy, I have two comp tickets to pro wrestling." I said, "Pro wrestling? What's that?" I was about 12 years old. Didn't know anything about it. Never seen it on TV, never. So this was on a Friday, and the show was a Tuesday night. Florida Championship Wrestling with Eddie Ram and Dusty and all these guys. So curiosity got me, and I went to the show. And I fell in love with professional wrestling that day. It was unbelievable. And there were the Funks, of course, and Bobo Brazil, and all these guys. And I used to ask my dad, please get me the comp tickets every Tuesday. And he did for quite a while. And I started being friends with some of the guys and started running and getting them sandwiches, and became friends with a lot of wrestlers. And of course, I wanted to be a wrestler, but I was 155 pounds and it was impossible. The next best thing, being in the ring, referee, smart decision on my part, gave me longevity in my career. This started in 1978 with Terry Funk in Lubbock, Texas. 1978, the Sheik and Terry in a chain match. It was my first professional match. I got the referee, made $90 that night. Got stabbed by the Sheik with a pencil. I still got the lead mark in my arm. If you guys ever see me at a convention or a show or an appearance, ask me and I'll show you the lead mark that I got by the Sheik. But so I became friends with Terry then, 1978. Got my gig with Florida Championship Wrestling in 1980, and the rest is history. When we're from there to WCW to WWF and ECW, and now I'm working independents and making appearances and conventions and stuff all over the world, which is very cool. And Terry has meant a lot to me. I was heartbroken when he passed, even though we kind of expected it a little bit. We knew he was in assisted living facility, and but it still hurts, man, big time. All of us are dying out. I'm on the list. I'm 66 years old. My era, the Barry Windhams and Mike Rotundos, that's my era. And the guys before me were Dusty and all them guys before them were the Bobo Brazil. So I got to work with, and a lot of great legends I got to work with. And Terry Funk was everybody's favorite. Terry was adjusted to the times. He adjusted to the times. He was a wrestler back in the 70s and 80s, and then he stepped up to the plate in the 90s with Vince McMahon, and of course in ECW got hardcore. He was, in his 50s going through damn tables and stuff. Unbelievable. He was a man that could adjust. and well
In
loved, and what a hand! What he was spectacular.
I had the pleasure not too long ago of interviewing a good friend of yours. I know Todd Gordon,
Todd
who
Gwynn's very
just
good.
yes, sir, who just released his autobiography, which is an excellent read. But when I asked about funk with Todd, he indicated, from his perspective and the perspective of many who were there at the time, not just the fans, that without funk's contribution, ECW wouldn't have been the ECW that we're still talking about here so many decades later. Would you
I
concur
would,
with that
I,
statement?
I'd agree. I would agree with that. He was a big part of ECW. He was a big part of putting his name out there for us. And when I went to ECW, I get a phone call. I just left WWF. I get a phone call. It's Paul Heyman. I've been working with Paul since the '80s, and I just left. I just got released from WWF. And he said, "Hey, Fonzie." I said, "Paul Heyman, oh, how you doing?" We talked for a few minutes. He said, "Hey, I got this company in Philadelphia. It's called ECW." I remember Hannibal TV. I've never worked for an indie company in my life. I've been, all the main companies, Ted Turner and Florida Wrestling and so on. And I said, "What the fuck's an ECW?" He said, "Yeah, this little company we're starting and we're hardcore. I got this idea. You just came from Vince. Vince McMahon wants the doctor, his wife, and the two kids at ringside. ECW's clientele was 85% male from 18 to 30 years old, wanted hardcore blood. Well, I didn't know there was a market for that. I've been in sports entertainment all my life, basically. So Paul Heyman came, but said, "Fonzie, we want to bring you for 4 weeks, and then we'll have 911 truck slam me and you're done. Thank you." But because he brought me to be anti ECW, he wanted me to be the sports entertainment referee. Hey, the lawyer, the doctor, and his wife at ringside with the kids. And so the people hated me when I stopped the Taipei death match because a little bit of a juice from the two brothers, Ian and Axel. People wanted to fucking hang me. So my gimmick got over. So at the end of the 4 weeks, I was supposed to get chokeslammed by 911. And then Paul Heyman thought it'd be a good idea to put me with Taz. And then that became my career as a manager. And of course, Terry Funk was in and out. So my point is, when I came to ECW, I walked in, there was Sandman, Tommy Dreamer, Taz, this guy, that guy. I didn't know one guy in a dressing room. I know Hulk Hogan and all these, Macho Man and Sting and all these guys. I don't know who the hell Sandman. So I walk in and said, Anyway, Paul Heyman created his own stars and then would bring in stars now and then, like Dr. Steve Williams and, of course, Terry Funk. And he brought in so many guys, man. And, was a big fan of ECW and ended up floating us $1 million to keep going because we had no corporate sponsors towards the end. It was Shane McMahon, loved ECW.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell he takes those big bumps off the cages. He was a kind of ECW guy. And then, and Vince bought us out, whatever. But, man, yeah, Terry Funk was a big part of ECW, no doubt. And one of my favorite people.
Before I ask you about your work in CWF, a fan on social media, actually, and a couple on the live chat have asked about the whistle deal and how did that come about?
Well, that was Paul Heyman's idea. I don't think I had the whistle until I was with Taz. So Paul Heyman thought I'd be a natural as a manager. Why not? I've been in the business, international referee and the Fujinami Flair, 65,000, Tokyo Dome, and WrestleMania, and this and that. So he thought it'd be a natural fit for me. But I wasn't really good at promos. Now I can do them. And but I had to learn. I was learning as I go. And so Paul Heyman gave me the whistle and gave me Taz. Taz had like 10 gimmicks before it became Taz and got over because he was Tasmania, he was Monkey Boy, he was this and that. Never really got over until he became himself. And that's how I got over just becoming Fonzie. I'm kind of myself out there, just amplify it a little bit and pick it up, pick the pace up. And so Paul Heyman gave me the whistle to be with Taz, he put me and Taz together. So, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I was embarrassed to blow it, and I said, "Fucking whistle." So the next week I was in ECW, and I forgot my whistle on purpose at home, and Paul Heyman said, "Hey, where's your whistle, Fonzie?" "Oh, I forgot." He said, "That's your gimmick. That's your gimmick." And then it clicked. Finally, it clicked, and now you can't stop me from blowing it. Daddy.
There you go. There you go. Certainly a heat getting device and inseparable from yourself. Now, I know we.
If you didn't know my name, oh, that's the guy who blew the whistle. In fact, I did so well with the whistle. I got I had Mattel Toys. I met a guy from Mattel Toys, and he made me a whistle, and I've been selling them for a few years. They're pretty cool. I think I bought 1,000 of them last year, and I maybe sold 700 and gave 300 of them away. So it's something to have. People like, I'm kind of liked now.
Yeah. Well, for sure, beloved. And we'll get to that at the end of the podcast, okay, where folks can find you and where they can purchase your merch. But I know we talked a little bit off air in terms of your time in championship wrestling from Florida. So I have a 2-part question for you here. Do you have any immediate, and I know you probably got a lot, but any immediate memories that stand out from your tenure there? And the second part being, did you see the Dark Side of the Ring episode about the late, great Eddie Graham and what your thoughts were?
Man, I spent my childhood there. I was in my early 20s, maybe 20 years old in 1980. We can figure that I was 21 or so, and I got hired. What happened was I was trying to break into business, and I was in Texas I went out there with my best friend, the Cuban assassin, David Sierra. He worked in Puerto Rico a lot. And he said, "Hey, Rocky Johnson." We met Rocky Johnson. Fucking Rocky Johnson's son, Dewey, now is one of the biggest stars on the planet, was 6 years old back in the 80s doing handstands backstage and shit. So anyway, Rocky Johnson got the Cuban assassin booked in Texas. And Dave said, he knew I wanted to break into business. He said, "Hey, why don't you come to Texas with me? I'll tell him you're my little brother and that you're a referee." And I kind of was a referee in my own mind. But anyway, but they had David Manning, Bronco Lubis, all the referees. They didn't need me. So I was out there for like 7 or 8 months with Dave traveling. There was 4 territories in Texas. The Von Erichs had Dallas in that area. Joe Blanchard had San Antonio in that era. Paul Walsh only ran Houston, and the Funks ran Northern, Amarillo, Lubbock, and all that. So I would travel. I was in the dressing room every night, but they had their own guys. And but I got to work 2 or 3 times while I was there for some reason. Anyway, I said, "Well, Dave, thank you, but I got to go home. I got to go back to Florida. I can't live off of you. I'm making no money. You're buying, I'm living with you in your apartment. You're buying my food." So Paul Jones, remember Paul Jones?
Number 1, Paul Jones. Yes.
Yeah, for one. Anyway, Paul Jones said, everybody said, "Oh, Fonzie, we heard you leaving. It's too bad. We got all the referees here. But when you get to Florida, I want you to call Florida Championship Wrestling and try to get a meeting with Jerry Briscoe. He's assistant booker to Dusty. And you tell Jerry that I sent you for an interview and tell him you're a referee and you work with, Joe Blanchard and the Von Erichs. I've only worked with them 2 times with Blanchard and 1 time with Von Erich and a couple of times with the Funks. But so I wasn't lying. So I got a meeting with Jerry Briscoe. This was, I told Jerry, I'm a referee. I worked, and Paul Jones told me to come in. And Jerry Briscoe says, "Unfortunately, Fonzie, Bill Alfonso, we have our referees, but leave your number and, with the guy downstairs. And maybe this summer when we run 2 shows a weekend, we can use you." So this was on a So I left my number. And Monday, the referee, they ran West Palm Beach on Monday, Tampa Tuesday, Miami Wednesday, Thursday Jacksonville, Friday and Saturday was spot shows, and Sunday Orlando. Week after week after week after month, year after year. No days off. So the referee had the three main events in the car with him. There's sellout crowd in West Palm Beach, 200-mile trip. And he had a flat tire. And he had no spare. They missed the show because the referee had no spare with the three main events. Dusty was livid. He fired a guy in the spot. I get a call from the Florida office Tuesday morning. Hey, this is Charlie Lay at the Florida office. Jerry Briscoe wants to know if you can come work tonight at the Armory. And I said, yes, sir. What time? It's 7 o'clock. So I get there at 6:45. I walk in. There's Dusty. Nobody in the dressing room but Dusty. He says, you a new referee? I said, yes, sir. He says, I'll get with you in a few minutes. So I'm fucking, devastated. I'm fucking, freaking out and nervous. But I've been around the business for a while now, a couple of years traveling with Von Erichs and all these big names and Harley Ray. And so I did well that night. I refereed that night. And Gerald come up to me and said, hey, can you work Miami tomorrow? Yes, sir. So I worked Miami. At the end of Miami, he said, can you work Jacksonville? I said, yes, sir. Can you work this? On the Sunday, he said, congratulations, you got a full-time job with us. We like you. We need a referee. You're our guy. And I was there until I went to WCW, until the territories closed. And when I started, I got to work with Bobo Brazil and these guys that were my idols growing up. Unbelievable, that generation. And then, of course, the Barry Windhams, who's one of the best workers in the business, Big Babyface and Terry Allen and all these guys. My goodness, breaking Lex Luger and all these guys. Ron Simmons. So I got a lot of great things about, I spent 12 years working 7 days a week, 360 days a year, basically. There wasn't no days off. And I think, how the hell you think, hey, Hannibal TV, how the hell you think back in the territory days, did we sell out every Wednesday, Miami Beach Convention Center? How do we sell that out 66 weeks in a row back then? How do we do that? It's crazy.
Different era.
Yes, and I was a part of that. I can't believe it. Then I got picked up with Dusty and worked for WCW and then Vince and all that. But man, what a crazy career.
Which we'll definitely get to. In terms of your relationship with Dusty, I know you mentioned him a couple of times already, and also when we've spoken offline. What was that like? And do you have any moments or interactions with him that stand out in your mind to this day?
Yeah, I sucker punched Dusty one night. Dusty gave me my break in WCW. They brought me over to Japan to do this. I didn't, the territories were closing, and Dusty went to Atlanta, TBS, Ted Turner, and they brought me in to do the main event, Fujinami and Ric Flair, Tokyo Dome, 65,000 people. And I said, damn, what can I do to stand out as a referee, So, of course, I went and bought designers, black pants, a beautiful long sleeve shirt, a beautiful bow tie. And I had my dear old mom, who passed away 13 years ago. She sold a Japanese flag and an American flag. So I let everybody get dressed. I made sure I get dressed with the bookers and the owners of the two companies, New Japan and WCW. And so when I got dressed in front of them, it looked like $1 million. My haircut, they went, ooh, they loved the flags and stuff, and I did a spectacular job for some reason. So the afterbirth of that was after the show, we go out and we celebrate. We're all at, I think it was a Hard Rock Cafe in Tokyo. And so at the end of the night, there's cabs pulling up and taking 4 guys back to the Keo Plaza Hotel. 4 guys jump in, 4 guys jump in the cab, till it gets to the last 3 guys, which is Ric Flair, who was just in the main event in front of 65,000 people, and Dusty, the booker of WCW. And I jumped in the front seat in the cab, and those two guys were in the back seat. And I wasn't signed with WCW at that point, and they were talking about how amazing the house was and this and that, and finally Dusty says to Ric Flair, "Hey Flair, baby, who's that in the front seat, baby?" He said, "Fonzie, I'm gonna make it happen for you, baby. I'm gonna have Jody Hamilton call you, and I'm gonna make it happen for you." That's all he said. So Jody Hamilton called me 4 days later, and they hired me in WCW, and they put me with Giant Gonzalez. I refereed and was Giant Gonzalez's personal assistant all over the world for 3 years. Then me and Giant went to WWF, and that's another cool story. I can tell you how that happened.
We'll get to it. How did you get into it physically with Dusty?
Anyway, I told Dusty was like a father to me after a couple of years, and I really worked hard. And my father had passed away when I was 16 years old, and I said, Dusty, I wish you were my father. You know, he was like a father figure to all these young kids. Barry Windham, he was the leader of the company. You know, we lived and breathed what he did. I dressed like him. I wore cowboy boots and jeans, and the only thing I didn't do was a dip. Uh, I said, Dusty, I wish you were my father. And he said, I am your father, son. And, I got even closer to him. And I'm sorry that he passed. And I was friends with him and his wife, Michelle. I just see Michelle at a Legends Luncheon here in Tampa that we have every couple of months. A lot of guys live in Florida, Steve Kern and all these guys. But Dusty meant the world to me. And what a great mind. I don't think too many people can talk about Dusty in a negative way. Such inspiration, and he was the 80s and 90s, you know what I mean? And we brought him into ECW too. It was great.
Yeah, I do remember that against Carino.
Yes. Oh God, Carino adored him.
Great man. In '83, you were part of that official NWA Starrcade press conference, the big build to Ric Flair versus Harley Race. Do you have any memories of that event in particular, and how revolutionary it was in terms of being the granddaddy of them all, as we used to say?
That was Dusty starting to think. I mean, we weren't doing pay-per-views or back then and all that, and all this was new. I mean, like I said, we were doing Monday Night West Palm, Tuesday Tampa, Wednesday, week after week in the same towns. And then what can we do to our Super Bowl and our big, so that was all Dusty's idea, man. These big, I remember we sold out half the Orange Bowl in Miami, Lords of the Ring, Miami Beach, in the damn football stadium, were big shows. That was all Dusty's idea, man. And me being a part of that is just that I was a referee and I dressed nice and got to be in part of the press conference and was in between Flair and the Harley Race. And I, at that time, I was already tagged as one of the better referees in around. I'm not bragging, but I worked hard at my craft and did it really well. And I was known to be a really good referee. And Dusty wanted, I'll give you an example. Dusty wanted me there, so Orlando. So every Sunday, Orlando, Fonzie, I want you here at 7:00. I'll tell you the lineup. I'll tell you the finishes. I'll tell you this and that. And then at 7:15, by 7:15, I'm done with Dusty. And I walk over because the heels and baby faces got dressed in two different dressing rooms. So the heels were waiting for me to come over with all the finishes and stuff. And I was known to remember. I can remember everything Dusty told me from the first match to the main event and finishes and spots and this and that. So I was known for that. And one time I was late. I got there like 10 after 7, and Dusty was waiting for me. He said, "Hey, why are you late, Fonzie?" I said, "Well, it's a sellout. It took me a long time because the car line was big to get in and everything." So we'll leave early. I was never late again. I'd rather be 2 hours early than 5 minutes late. And still I hold that to this day. When Dusty told me don't ever be late again, he told me for a reason. And was never late again. I'd rather be 2 hours early. Dusty was the creator of all that. And then he got heat from a lot of promoters. Oh, you're spending too much money and this and that. But damn, we were drawing, selling out half of the Orange Bowl, you know, at
Mhm.
$20 a ticket in the 80s. It was
Mhm.
crazy, for 3 times a year, So then these things start happening, and 4 or 5 times a year they have these big events, and then of course pay-per-views came along.
Yeah, set
Oh,
the business
do
model.
you know I was on the first Monday Night Raw ever broadcasted?
No, the very first episode of Raw.
Yes, live and Raw. Yeah, the early
We'll
night.
we'll get into that when you went over to the WWF. A
Okay.
fan though wanted to ask about the famous your recollection of the famous cage match between Luger and Bruiser Brody in Florida, and your recollections of that.
I have good recollections of that. I have, of course, I was a referee. So here's what happened. They were training Luger to be the next Sting or be the next Ric Flair, and uh, so they trained his ass off, and it was a bad booking. They should have never put. So they were feeding Lex Luger all these. I don't want to use the word job guy, but opponents where he can beat him up pretty quick and do his pose because he had that beautiful body. Lex Luger never was a great worker like Barry Windham. I mean, he had a physique, he had the it factor, but he couldn't produce in the ring like 100%. He was 80% or whatever. He just didn't have that it factor in the ring. And Lex Luger is still a good friend of mine still to this day. I see him at conventions and all the time, and I love him. What happened was a bad booking. They put Lex Luger in the cage with Bruiser Brody as a special attraction in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at the War Memorial, and they shouldn't have done that. Lex Luger's been getting fed all these job guys for 6 months, and they put him in the ring with this massive superstar who's temperamental and a big superstar in Japan, one of the biggest, and he didn't know what to do with them, and it was just a bad booking. It should have never happened. Should have never happened. And I was in charge that night. Dusty wasn't there. That was the main event. Dusty wasn't there, and they just sent me down with the finishes and stuff. And I was kind of running the show that night. And Brody got tired of this young kid. Uh, it wasn't Luger's fault. It was a bad booking. And anyway, Luger said, Fonzie, he's not selling for me. What do I do? I said, well, grab me, throw me against the cage. I'll DQ you as a referee. And then Luger grabbed me, threw me against the cage. I'm ringing the bell, selling my eye or something. And I disqualify Luger for throwing me in the cage. He climbed over the cage, jumped in the dressing room, grabbed his bags, and hauled ass. It was a bad booking. Should have never happened. Wasn't Lex Luger's fault. He didn't know any better. And it wasn't
What
Brody's fault because they stick him in the ring with this young guy there trying to make a superstar. It was a
did,
bad
did,
booking.
did you have any inclination that Brody was going to behave the way that he did
No,
leading
and
into the
hey,
match?
no, I didn't. No, I didn't. And he didn't. But he uh, acted appropriately. You know, Luger goes in there and locks up with him, and they do a couple of things, and uh, Brody wouldn't talk to him in the ring, and and Luger just didn't know what to do. He didn't just settle down and listen. If all he had to do was listen to Brody, Brody would have got him through, but he didn't listen because uh, he wasn't prepared mentally for the. Uh, uh, damn it! But that's a famous match. That's a
Yeah,
famous.
definitely,
Yeah, I got a
definitely.
picture of me and I'll post it on YouTube and whatever and Twitter and all that. I'll try to pull up the picture as we're speaking. But I get that question all the time. What happened? You know? Damn, I don't know what happened. I was, but yeah, man. But go ahead, Daddy. I
I
get the question a lot, man. That's a pretty cool question.
Richie Hodgkins wants to know, do you have any thoughts on AEW? And I wanted to ask you that in a bit in terms of Rob Van Dam his appearances there and being active in the company. What your thoughts are on the state of AEW as a secondary, larger company now?
Well, I think it's fantastic for the boys, and I think they're doing a hell of a job. I mean, they gotta look. There's only a couple hundred contracts on the planet for wrestlers to make a living. The guys that are working indie shows like I do on weekends, I work either Friday or Saturday, or Friday or Saturday. I can't make a living at that, but I've already done my careers. I'm coasting now, having a good time. I enjoy what I'm doing, but these guys can't. The only way you can make a living is if you get a contract with AEW, and they're doing a fantastic job. And my name's come up a couple of times. Do you know who QT Marshall is?
Yes, sir.
He's come up to me. I've met him twice at a couple of indie shows. And he came right up to me and said, "Oh, Fonzie, how you doing? My name's QT Marshall. I'm involved. I'm one of the agents at AEW. I'm Tony Khan and this and that." He said, "Your name came up in a meeting." Yeah. I said, "Oh, cool, thanks." He said, "Well, just hold on, we're calling." So about a month later, I seen him at another indie show or a convention or whatever. He came up to me again and said, "Hey, Fonzie, your name come up again at a board meeting or whatever." I said, "Oh, fantastic." He said, "But don't, we'll call you." So anyway, he's approached me 3 times and said my name's come up. So hopefully something works out. But I think it's fantastic for the boys. And, they got backing. Tony Khan loves the business, providing jobs and great entertainment. They got a couple of shows a week. Man, I'm so happy for these young superstars that are there. He's creating.
What are your thoughts on Rob's recent appearances in AEW?
I thought it was fantastic, Rob. I do shows with Van Dam all the time. RVD's a dear friend of mine, and I love him, and I love his wife Katie. She's beautiful. I do show. I was just in Battle Creek, Michigan, Kellogg's Arena. Him and Brian Cage, main event. Hometown Boy makes an appearance, and we're there for a couple of days doing appearances and all that. It was freaking great. And Van Dam's 51 or 50. I think he just turned 52, maybe. He's in fantastic shape, and he's still so relevant in the business. I mean, he can have we stole the show in Battle Creek, Michigan. Him and Brian Cage had a spectacular match. We did the chair spots and this and that. Fonzie got involved. It was unbelievable. So it was great that they brought Van Dam in. I think Tony Khan was a fan of ECW at one point. That's what I've heard anyway. So he knows who the fuck I am. And my name's come up. So hopefully you see Fonzie blowing my whistle on one of their shows, Daddy. That'd be fantastic. I love to go in there, work an angle with, I'll come in with any of their guys and manage them. And we beat Hook. We beat the fuck out of Hook. And, because I'm affiliated with Taz, I think it's a perfect angle. But anyway, hopefully it happens in Philadelphia one day. But we'll see. And God bless Tony that he's around. He's providing jobs and entertainment for millions of people all over the world. And
almost writes itself.
They got Animal TV. I think they got a good product. They put on a hell of a TV show. It's not perfect, but who's perfect? Vince McMahon? Nope, he's not perfect, but he's got he's Vince.
In terms of your movement to the WWF, you alluded to that earlier with reffing and agenting there, and that Giant Gonzalez versus Undertaker match at WrestleMania 9. How did you? Yeah, how did you get booked there?
How do I get booked in WWF? Well, I had a contract. Giant Gonzalez and I had contracts with WCW, Ted Turner, making big money, making 6 figures. He was making big 6 figures. I was making small 6 figures. And they were losing money. They were spending millions of dollars. The people that were running, the finance people were running WCW were spending a lot of money. And so they brought this guy in. His name was Jim Herd. You know that name, Jim Herd?
Yes, sir.
He was a wrestling guy. He was a a big time. He was a Pizza Hut uh, management of a multi-billion-dollar company, Pizza Hut. They brought him in to save some money and save. So he came in and said, "Hey, Fonzie, I want you and the Giant to take a pay cut. We can't afford to pay you $500,000 a year. Can you work for 400?" And Giant Gonzalez looked at me when Jim Herd left. He wanted everybody to take a pay cut, not just me and Giant Gonzalez. And Giant Gonzalez turned to me and said, "Hey, Fonzie, I don't want to take a pay cut." I said, "Me either." He said, "But what are our options?" And our options are we can go to Japan and wrestle for Japan, or we can. He says, "Fonzie, you know anybody in WWF?" I said, "Of course I do. I know J.J. Dillon. I worked for him. That was Dusty's assistant booker for years." He said, "Well, call J.J. and see if you can see if you can make something happen for us." So I called J.J. Dillon out of the blue. He's at Titan Towers. He's Vince's left-hand man. JJ, with JJ, he accepts my call. It's hard to call somebody who's the second in charge of WWF and get a direct line with them. So he took my call. "Hey, Fonzie, how you doing?" He put me over for a second. He said, "What can I do for you?" I said, "Well, here's what happened. We got a contract with Turner, WCW, and Jim Herd came in. He wants everybody to take a pay cut. We're just weighing our options. We can go to Japan and wrestle for Baba, or Giant Gonzalez can go back and play basketball in European basketball, or if you guys are interested, what do you think, JJ? He needs an assistant, and plus I'm a referee, as you know. What do you think?" He said, "Yeah, let me run it by Vince, and I'll get back with you." So we hung up the phone, and I told Giant Gonzalez what happened, and I said, "Well." 20 minutes later, my phone rings. It's J.J. Dillon. He says, "Hey, Vince is interested. When can you guys come up for a meeting?" I said, "Well, anytime." It just so happens John Gonzalez just had a spur cut out of his heel, and we're off for the week. We give him healing time. We can fly up anytime. He says, "How about tomorrow?" I said, "Tomorrow's fantastic, but JJ Giant has to fly first class, and me, I can fly coach." So Vince flew us both up first class, and a limo picked us up, and we thought we'd go to Titan Towers, but we went right to Vince's house. The limo took us right to Vince's house. We walk in, and there's J.J. Dillon, no Vince McMahon. JJ introduces himself to the Giant. We bullshit for a few minutes. He said, "Vince is running a little bit late. He'll be here any minute." Then Vince walks in with his bright green suit on, and, "Hey, I'm from Vince McMahon, and oh, I know you. You're Fonzie. You're kind of athletic. You're a great referee." And Giant Gonzalez, "Pleased to meet you." So they hit it off, and he says, "We like you, Giant. You're hired with us." "Well, we're still," I said, "Vince, W still owes us our last paychecks, owes Giant Gonzalez 60,000 and me certain amount, whatever it was, $5,000 or whatever." He says, "Don't worry about it. I'll give that to you as a signing bonus." And Giant Gonzalez tells Vince, "Hey, I haven't been home for Christmas in 2 years. I'm going to go home before I start working with you guys." And he says, "No, go home. We'll start you in January 30th or whatever." And he says, "Fonzie, do you want to stay some time off too?" I said, No, I want to go to work right away so I can get familiar with WWF. So JJ starts filling me in, adding me onto the sheet, and he puts, "Here, Fonzie, here's your next 10 days where you're going to be at." Gives me a list. Then travel will get with you on your tickets and all that. So Giant Gonzalez goes home, and JJ giving me a list of where I'm going to be for the next 10 days. And there's this and that in New York and MSG. I said, "JJ, what's the initials MSG for?" He said, "Fine," because WCW never ran Madison Square Gardens. That's Vince's, So my first week in WWF, I'm in Madison Square Gardens. Wow, what a thrill.
Wow.
I'm a young kid has been around for a long time, but Madison Square Gardens, the most famous venue on the planet. Are you kidding me? I was thrilled. So, and then I changed the dress code for WWF referees, ring crew, underneath guys, and so on. So my first night, my first week in WWF, uh, appearance is everything. I can't look like the fucking audience. I can't walk in with a pair of jeans and a nice T-shirt and a pair of Nikes. I'm gonna walk in. So I go in. I walk into Madison Square Gardens, and you know how the boys get there a couple hours early, and there's guys around the ring, and there are guys working out in the ring, and that. And I walk in with my nice baggage and my Submariner Rolex and fucking beautiful suit and all that. And Vince McMahon sees me when I walk. Hey, Fonzie, come over here. And he calls all the other referees, the ring crew. So he says, hey, you see how Fonzie's dressed? Because everybody was dressed in the Zubas. Remember the Zubas and all
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Everybody was dressed in the Zubas, traveling. He says, from now on, at any big event, especially any big event, I want you to dress just like Fonzie is. So I had heat with the Hebners and all these guys. Why do you got to dress like that? I said, well, why not? Fuck, I want to be an asset, not a fucking defect. So I kind of changed the dress code and got a little heat for it with the referees, but Vince loved it and loved me. And then Giant Gonzalez came in and we did our tour there and did WrestleMania 9 and so on. And but at that point, the Giant's knees were giving out. He became diabetic. He had the Giant's disease. And, it used to break my heart when he said, Fonzie, I'm going to die young like Andre. I get the Giant's disease. There's a scientific name for it, but, we just call it the Giant's disease.
Acromegaly, I believe.
Yeah, but his jaw wasn't protruding like Andre's. He didn't have the big forehead and all that, but it was coming. And so he went home and retired, and he passed shortly after that in Argentina. It was sad, died in his early 40s, but it was a thrill to be the personal assistant to the largest athlete on the planet for 3 years. What a thrill.
Mm-hmm.
We went and did Baywatch. I was on Baywatch with the Giant. We did Hulk Hogan's Thunder in Paradise. Remember Hogan's TV series with Jack Kilby's kid, Chris Lemon, and Carol Alt, and I got to meet all those people. I wasn't on the show, but I was in the background playing volleyball on the beach scene at the end and shit. So, I did some pretty cool stuff.
What do you think went wrong in that match with the Undertaker in Mania 9 that often is cited as amongst the worst WrestleMania matches?
Well, I say it's the worst WrestleMania match, but Undertaker's used to having fucking stealing the show of WrestleManias and had this big run and all this. It was just a Giant. He wasn't adapted. His body, he never really got it. I don't even know how you're going to bring the word up Lex Luger again, but he never had he wasn't a sports entertainer. He was an athlete, but man, he could play basketball and he was athletic as hell. He just didn't get the business. He's so awkward, and it was just an off match, but we pulled it off. It was okay. I wouldn't call it the worst match, but it's possibly it could be, but it just Giant Gonzalez wasn't that good. What sold him, he was fucking 8 foot tall, you know what I mean? Larger than we had a planet we built him as. And he was legitimately the second biggest guy was the kid that played basketball main for Houston. And he was 7'4" or something. Giant was legitimately 7'7". My Giant. It was just, it's just Giant Gonzalez wasn't that good in the ring. And, I knew it wasn't going to be a fantastic match. And maybe it was the Undertaker's fault for not, no, I didn't mean that.
For not carrying him?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
He knew he wasn't a great worker. He knew he couldn't throw a great punch. He was limited. He could do 6 or 7 moves, and they weren't spectacular,
But before we leave El Gigante, Giant Gonzalez.
Thank you for saying that. But
No. Who came up with the idea for the costume with the fur, and what did he think of that?
That was Vince's stuff, and Giant Gonzalez did fine. He's making 6 figures, brother. Big, mid 6 figures. Who's going to complain? I don't care if they send me out there in my underwear and a whistle. pay me $10 a year. I'm gonna fucking walk backwards and stand in the corner if they tell me. But John Gonzalez never seen that kind of money. He played European basketball. He didn't get paid that kind of money. Fuck, that's huge money. That was in the 90s, early 90s. It was
Yeah.
big money.
Yeah, for sure. So
That was the talent people, the costume people. Vince had costume people. He had his own travel agent. He had this and that. His own jets. It was all the costuming. And it looked okay. It wasn't spectacular, but
it's certainly memorable. So you worked, you said the first taping ever of Raw. What was the atmosphere like during that period of time?
We didn't know what was going on. Vince had this brilliant idea. Who knows? The longest running, to this day, it's the longest running TV episode series or whatever you want to call it in TV history. It's still live fucking every Monday night. Who knew? Who knew? We didn't know what. You know, we're at the Manhattan Center or wherever we taped it at. Then we start getting it. You know, we're live on fucking TV. We're getting ratings for this and that. I didn't realize it, but Vince did. He saw the future, and it's sure enough still going today, man. Monday Night Raw.
Mm-hmm. How did your tenure come to a close in the WWF, and then the transition right away to ECW through Paul?
Because the business goes up and down. Say it was at 100% from 1987 to 1993, and then had a little downfall of 10%. The business goes up and down. You're selling out Madison Square. You're selling out the Los Angeles Forum every time you go, but then it goes to 80%. So the business was down a little bit. And it's only made sense. Vince McMahon came up to me himself, not anybody else. Fonzie, business down, and we're going to have to let you go because you were one of the last referees we had, Kyoto, and this guy who's been here for years. And but we're still going to use you. He shows we run in Florida, and if we need you for this and that, and then he did. He kept his word. We did a pull apart the bodybuilders against the wrestlers, and Busch Gardens. It was a big thing. Pull apart. I was a referee for that. They used me every time they came to Florida, so I was still attached. And still, I'm in the wellness program. WWF has a wellness program. I talk to them every 2 weeks. WWF every 2 weeks. Still to this day. If I get sick, they'll take care of me. They still love me. So I finished up there, and that's when Paul Heyman called me. A month or two after I left WWF, and had this bright idea to bring me in to be anti-ECW, as we talked earlier. Vince wants the doctor, his wife, and the 2 kids at ringside, and ECW fighting hardcore blood, and I was there to turn the violence away. And man, what a spot I had. And I was there until ECW ran its course. And I'm still working today because I'm still relevant today, Hannibal TV, because of ECW. Not because I was an international referee for WrestleManias and Fujinami and Flair and did this big thing and worked all. It's because of ECW. People like me. I'm still beloved because of ECW.
Yeah, and when we talk about ECW, one of the preeminent topics that comes up is the atmosphere in the ECW arena and the relationship between the fans and the wrestlers and others. What stands out in your mind during the time you put in the arena there along those lines with that atmosphere?
Changed course of the fans today. They were hardcore fans, and we still get chants. When I go to these indie shows, the announcers say 1 fall, then the crowd says 1 fall. You fucked up. You fucked. The fans got into it, and we made them a part of it, man. We had the greatest fans of them all. I didn't realize what was going on for a while until I was in ECW for a while until I said, "Damn, what a company! What we're changing the course of wrestling history." We were competing with WCW in a small way and WWF in a small way. We were competing Bill, after the magazines, sport, Wrestling Illustrated, and all these magazines were uh, like this. So we're competing to a small extent with the multi-billion-dollar company WWF and WCW, and they give managers of the years and referee of the year and wrestler of the years and all that. And guess who in 1997 they gave manager to a year to a guy in ECW, not
Mm.
WWF, not Jimmy Hart, not the anybody else. They gave it to the ECW guys so that we knew we were on the map and we were doing something. It's a shame that we didn't make it all the way, but we sure did provide some. We changed the history of wrestling, and the fans were right there with us. It's great.
In terms of your feud with Todd Gordon, who came up with that storyline that's so memorable still to this day?
I would say that would be Paul Heyman was a big part of that. And he told us what to do, and it made sense for the owner of the company, Todd Gordon, to be frustrated with this referee. Appointed by the athletic commission, which was a workout to stop the bias and that. And then me and him had so many matches, and Todd Gordon used to beat my ass because he's not a wrestler. He's never been in the ring, and he doesn't know how to do a monkey flip or anything like that. And man, he'd have me in that turnbuckle throwing those right hands to my forehead as hard as he could. And I'm talking to him, saying, "Hey, Todd, loosen up. You're killing me." He couldn't hear me because it was like the deer in the headlights thing. He couldn't hear me. I'm 12 inches away from him. Telling Todd, "You're killing me." He couldn't, was so excited, but it made the matches good. Todd used to beat my ass in that feud, and we became good friends. I talked to Todd weekly. Mm-hmm. Still to this day, one of my best friends in the business.
Great guy. We've heard a lot about the locker room in ECW, and that it was basically quite how do you say unorganized, and they're disorganized, and there were
unorganized,
a lot of crazy. That's it. Can you expand on that a bit?
Well, in that route, give you some examples or whatever, but Paulie let it run its course, but we weren't bad in the locker room, and we weren't, late and on drugs. Of course, everybody was partying and getting high and doing whatever, but I mean, when it came to business, everybody performed, from Tommy Dreamer to Raven, Stevie Richards, Blue Meanie, and all these guys. We were giving it. We loved the business so much that it just ran itself, man. It's hard to explain that locker room, man. Paul Heyman would come in and give us a big pep talk, and at the beginning, the show starts at 8:00, and we're all there at 5, and we have a meeting. Paul Heyman give us the talk and put Sandman over and this guy over and tell us his plans, and everything's going well. And we got a pay-per-view coming up, our first pay-per-view, and so on. And man, we did 22 pay-per-views. ECW, I got there May in 1995 and started my referee gimmick, and then turned with Taz. Then, of course, on the first pay-per-view, I went with Van Dam and Sabu, and I was on top for the rest of till it fizzled out, or didn't fizzle out till we ran out of money in 2001 or wherever it was. But man, unbelievable. What a locker room, man. The guys were just so dedicated to the business, to ECW.
Yeah, that first pay-per-view, Barely Legal, in '97. Can you talk about the pressure that Heyman was under and the company was under at the time to make that a success, and just how stress filled that was until I
It
understand the
was
power went out right
stressful.
5 seconds.
It was probably very stressful for Paul Heyman. I mean, here this is going to make us or break us. Paul Heyman knew we had it. He knew we were going to put on a hell of a show because we were doing fantastic shows, and Paul Heyman had in his mind we were going to do good and prepped us and this and that. But anything could go wrong. There was the TV and the pay-per-view and the company and this and that. But for some reason, man, it just clicked, and we had we had good ratings with a decent buy rate. In fact, Paul Heyman came up to me after, a week later, and it was time to get paid and all that. He says, Fonzie, I don't know what to pay you. We did really well on the pay-per-view. I said, well, why don't you pay me the same thing Vince paid me for WrestleMania 9? He said, okay, how much was that? And I told him he paid me that. We were successful, and that was a home run from the first pay-per-view. There was 22 of them. I did 21. I didn't do the last one because the company was falling apart, and we couldn't make payroll. I never, there's rumors about the bad checks and the money wasn't there. I'm sure that happened, but I always got paid. I have nothing to say but good things about Paul Heyman and the company. But we were struggling. We had no corporate sponsors. We didn't have, Zuba, what was that thing Vince had, IQ Pro and all that he started. Well, we didn't have no corporate sponsors. It was tough, man, but we were borrowing money from Peter to pay Paul sometimes, but we made it work. I made nice money working 2 days a week, 5 years. I was on top with Van Dam and Sabu, and still relevant today. Unbelievable. Thanks, Paul Heyman. Thanks, Todd Gordon. Thanks, ECW.
Yeah, a lot of fans are remember greatly the run you had with, and they're actually asking about it here in the live chat with Rob Van Dam during his his ECW title reign and the excitement around that, and how he was attempting to make the TV title on par with the world title. What are your standout memories from that period of time? Any matches?
Well, RVD was a special athlete. I mean, there was nobody like RVD. I mean, he started creating these things and was doing stuff nobody was doing, and jumping from turnbuckle to turnbuckle and all these spectacular things and the chair spots and this and that, and the longest reigning television champion in the history of wrestling. And of course, it's a work, but he made it happen, man. He was, man, and he still to this day, he still can go, man. Still, he can get in the ring, but he was just a special character, a special guy, good vibes, and did he like his 420. We were in High Times. We were featured in High Times magazine. Me, Sabu, Van Dam was featured, and me and Sabu were right there on the side. It was pretty cool. But because Van Dam was so good, and nobody could follow him. He had fantastic matches with Jerry. Anybody he worked with Spike Dudley. I just saw something on Twitter that was they show 25 years ago today, Spike and Van Dam, and they fucking tore the house down. Little Spike Dudley weighed 145 pounds and had a fantastic match. Van Dam could adapt to anybody. If it was, Bam Bam Bigelow, who dropped the strap to us in Buffalo, New York, the TV strap. Thank you, Bam Bam, who is one of the best big men in the business. I love Bam Bam. I'm so sad that he passed, but, we've lost a lot of great guys, but damn, Bam Bam was so good. Him and Van Dam had spectacular matches. My God, everybody Van Dam worked with, Van Dam would make them step up and bring the best out in them. If they weren't the best, he would make them the best. Van Dam was a special guy, and still is. He got that good vibe. He believes in the good and bad. He's on the good side. Yin and Yang, kind of mind Bruce Lee.
Can you talk about the whole mole in the locker room situation and the fans when they found out that we were doing this interview? They wanted to ask you about that. It comes up, I'm sure, in every conversation you had, that match with Beulah and that absolute bloodfest that's regarded as one of the bloodiest matches of all time. But the whole mole in the locker room backstory to that, please.
About that, but I'm gonna tell you where I'm at. I'm in Tampa Bay. I'm at my home. I got a beautiful villa, got a beautiful wife. Life is so good for me. I'm sitting on my patio outside. Got a just beautiful, and I'm talking to Hannibal TV. Man, life is so fucking good. The mole thing, I didn't understand. I didn't know anything about it until it was all over, and then people start talking about it. And supposedly, I was a part of it. Paul Lee or somebody in the office, ECW office, thought I was a part of WCW. Why would they call Fonzie for me to get him hooked up with Sandman? They don't just call Sandman. Don't call Fonzie. You know, fuck. Uh, so I was never a part of anything like that, be filtering guys out to Vince or WCW or anything. That was all. I don't know where that fucking came up, and but they thought I was involved somehow, and then um, they thought about letting me go. This is I'm not sure about this, but I've been heard that they thought about letting me go because they thought I was part of that Mo thing, stealing talent from ECW, sending them to Ted Turner. I wasn't a part of that. So anyway, they had me do a match with Beulah, and fortunately, we had two non-wrestlers, and we stole the show, and people are still talking about it because I almost bled to death that night. I hit an artery or something happened, whatever. But uh, Paul Heyman didn't have the heart to let me go after that. After I got rushed to the hospital and almost died and all kind of shit on that. But uh, I don't know how that mold thing came up. I don't know how my name was involved in that because I had no part of it. Why would Ted Turner's people even need Fonzie to get Sandman or any of the talent there? Just call them. Don't call Fonzie.
Was it true that match and your performance in it, quote unquote, saved your spot in
Yes,
ECW because of this
that's what they
rumor?
say. Yeah, that's what they say. But if you ask Paul Heyman to name one of his, if you ask Paul Heyman, if you ever get Paul Heyman on Hannibal TV or if you ever meet him or whatever, say Paul Heyman, what was some of your favorite matches in ECW? And there were thousands of them. He was going to say Fonzie and Beulah was one of my favorites, top three. Uh, no, I think if it didn't save my job, it might have saved my job. I don't know, but I ended up staying and working for them until they went out of business.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
was 1997, or 97 when I had that match with Beulah. I stayed there till the company closed and became a beloved character.
Mm-hmm.
Still very close to Paul Heyman today.
Mm-hmm. In terms of your relationship today, or your managerial relationship in ECW with Taz, what
Which
with Taz? Yes. How did that pairing come together? And I'm curious what you think of Hook, his son's work in
I love,
AEW.
I love Hook. I think he's very marketable. You got to be marketable. Now, I told you my name came up twice. QT Marshall came up to me and said, Fonzie, your name came up twice, and in the board meeting or whatever in AEW. But am I marketable? I'm 66 years old. I've got gray hair. Uh, but Hook, very marketable. He looks great. Get that Mark Spitz body. He can work. He's good. He's this, that. Got a great name. He's very marketable. I love Hook. I mean, I met him out just for a brief moment. We were at WrestleMania, WrestleCon last year in Los Angeles, and I'm sure I'll see him at the next one. Anyway, a nice kid and hell of a little hand. He's great. He's great. And they don't push the issue Taz and him. You don't need Taz. He's Hook, man. Very, he's very marketable, is what I'm saying. He's got the it factor, and he's just marketable. People like him. People like.
I think we're frozen here, Fonzie. we're frozen.
Are we back?
Oops.
I lost you.
Okay,
Sorry.
you're back.
Okay.
I think
The hook is very marketable. He's what we need for 2023, 2024, 2025. He's what we need. This business needs marketable, young, good-looking talent that can work in the ring and provide sports entertainment.
What would be, if you could boil it down to one kind of moment or area, would be the highlight of your time managing Taz? Was that when you turned on Taz, or what would that be?
No, I think a great spot for me with Taz was when I first came in, and I was supposed to only stay in ECW for 4 weeks. We talked about it earlier. Get chokeslammed by 911, and then I was out. But my gimmick, my character, the anti ECW, got over, and Paul Heyman seen some more in me, and he put me with Taz. Taz got me over. We got each other over. I told you Taz had 4 different gimmicks before it became Taz, and I never was the manager. I didn't know what to do, and man, Taz got me through, and we were good for each other. It was an oddball connection. I'm a hyper and fucking Fonzie, blow my whistle, and there's Taz, badass suplex, serious fucking machine. You know what I mean? And there's Fonzie and the character, and it just worked. Thank you, Taz. Taz is badass. Look at Taz now. He's got a He's been in the business 25 to 30 years. He's locked in with AEW. He's great at what he does, man. Hopefully I get to work on him again soon. I hope so. I hope I get a little run in AEW. If not, just a spot like Sabu had, or Van Dam. They brought in Van Dam for a couple of things. I'd be happy with that. But if it doesn't happen, okay. But am I, comes down to the question you asked me about Hook. Am I marketable? I don't know. Maybe for a little nostalgia, yes. Maybe for a little ECW, Philly people, yes. But Hook is marketable, not Fonzie. So, but I'm happy doing my gigs, and happy doing Hannibal TV, and happy flying around the world doing conventions and working WrestleMania shows, things like that. I'm booked all over the country all the time. In fact, hopefully I come up to Canada in the near future and work with you guys.
Yes, sir. We're definitely fans of your work and your legacy. We've gone through about an hour and 10 minutes. I think we're going to have to do a part 2.
Daddy, oh, don't wrap me up, Hannibal TV. I can talk all night long, Daddy. Don't give me that. I haven't said anything about the alligators. Me running over with the fabulous Moolah and Angelo Mosca, one of Canada's national heroes, Angelo Mosca, his son, and running over an alligator and this and that, or Roddy Piper or Barry Windham getting shot in the leg and wrestling Harley Race for an hour that night at the Miami Beach Convention Center. We haven't talked to anything, so don't wrap me up.
Well, we'll definitely cover that in another edition of this. But before we do that, a fan wants to ask your
part 2. Part 2?
Yes, sir. We have to have a part 2, just as I expected. A fan is asking what your thoughts on Sunny are now with her tragedy.
Sunny was one of the most beautiful girls. I got a naked picture of her and Beulah, of her and Missy Hyde. That was spectacular, beautiful. Sunny was so marketable and so good with that mic back in, man, she was spectacular doing interviews and this and that. She was over it. My God, she was beautiful. And fucking success got to her. It gets to a lot of us. You know how many guys woke up dead in their hotel room? Let me give you an example. Kurt Hennig, Rick Rude, and the list goes on, that we've lost guys due to addictions and so on. And, I've been to Betty Ford 3 times myself. Fuck. And it's just the lifestyle on the road. We think we're superstars and we're invincible, But damn it, I'm sorry for Sunny. It looks like she's going to jail for 20 years. And she should. She fucking killed a guy. She had warnings after warnings and breaks after breaks. Like a 4th or 5th DUI. Don't fucking drink and drive. fuck. It's simple. And geez, it is what it is. I've seen a picture of her recently in her gel suit. Her orange looked terrible. God bless her. I'd send her $100 to her PayPal if she needed it if I could, you know. But damn it, Sonny, it's just sad. It's sad that, but listen, there's more success stories and more guys have retired like me, you know. There's more success stories than bad stories. There's bad stories in every aspect of every sport and everything, every entertainment. So Sonny is one of the bad ones, but God bless her, you know.
Absolutely. Where can this is the opportunity that the fans are interested in terms of where they can find you on social media, and what do you have to plug, sir?
Well, I don't really have anything to plug, but just, you know, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. You can get a hold of me. You can just message me a messenger if you're interested. Like I brought up earlier, I got my freaking bona fide extreme whistle and Taz and Van Damme said on the back is pretty cool. I sell ECW jackets, of course, 8x10s and so on and so on. But you know, just, you know, you can message me and I respond. I'm on social media all the time. If you guys message me and say, hey, Fonzie, send me a picture of an ECW jacket for sale, I will send it. You know, I got some cool stuff. So just message me and ask me for something and I'll get it out to you the next day. And I'm not super expensive. You know, 8x10 of me and Andre the Giant signed, or me and Hulk Hogan, or yeah, I got some really fucking cool pictures that from the 80s all the way up to now.
Excellent. Well, we have started to scratch the surface, I believe, of all the stories that you have. Definitely want to extend an invite. There you go, to have you back for a part 2, Fonzie, as we go close into. That would be, what would that be? Francine, but an old promo photo?
Yeah, that was her doing a graffiti of me on the wall. It was pretty cool somewhere.
Very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
You see her she's all on social media all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's great. Thank you so much for having me on Hannibal TV. And thank you so much for all the cool people that I've met throughout the years, and Canada and the US and Tokyo is one of my favorite cities. And I'm still relevant in the business today and love the business, guys. If you ever meet me, come up to me, say, hey, I seen you on Hannibal TV. We'll talk. I'll put you over. And, you know, I'm really a cool guy. I'm well liked in the business. And, you know, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. So thank you so much to all the sports entertainment fans and Hannibal TV for having me. It's been an honor to be on your show. I know you're successful. Congratulations on what you do, and thank you for what you do, Hannibal TV, Daddy.
Well, that's it, fans. A special edition, part 1 with Fonzie, the man who calls it right down the middle, Daddy. And we thank you for your time and look forward to having you back again soon. Hit that whistle, sir.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.